Shalom and welcome to all my brothers and sisters. What is Karaism? Now, before the word Karaites came into existence, and it was a move made to separate and distinguish, branding a people that always existed, who always stood by the written words of Yehovah, the Creator, and only to the written words of the Hebrew Bible, which is Tanakh, alone, the Hebrew scrolls, and did not adopt the teachings of the Pharisaic movement. There has always been Israelites who stood by the words alone of the Hebrew Scriptures. This has always existed throughout history. Later on, the term was created, Kara, which means, basically it's a form of Tanakh, the ancient form of Tanakh, Karaim, so people of the Scriptures, believers in the Scriptures alone. So this name was basically put out there as a banner to make it known that we are putting this name out there to verify that there is a legitimate group of people that are absolutely against the rabbinical traditions and that are following the Hebrew Scriptures alone. What is Karaism? Period. Karaism is the original form of Judaism, or the Israelite way of life, commanded by God to the Jewish people in the Torah, to the Israelites. Karaites accept the Hebrew Scriptures alone, Tanakh alone, as the words of Elohim, and as the sole religious authority, period. The book is the authority. Now, if anyone says different, they're a liar. They're not following the Karaite way whatsoever. At the same time, Karaites deny human additions to the Torah, such as the rabbinical oral law, or the Talmudic tradition, the Mishnah, and other books that were added on later. Because Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 2 states, "You shall not add to the word which I have commanded you, neither shall you diminish from it." Karaite Judaism also rejects the rabbinical principle that the rabbis are the sole authorities for interpreting the Scriptures. Karaites believe that every Jew has an obligation to study the Torah and decide for himself or herself the correct interpretation of God's commandments. Now, a lot of people will take this and go, whoa, 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 there's a problem there. Everybody interpreting for themselves? No, that's not what I mean. So what I mean is that each person, you and me, are responsible for our Torah observance. We are responsible for our own Torah studies. We are responsible to studying the Scriptures, to have understanding, knowledge, which is given by Elohim to each individual. Now, we cannot invent theologies. We cannot invent rules and regulations. So this is something that gets thrown out there that people don't understand. No, we are not saying that you could just pick up the Tanakh and just go, well, I think it means this, this, and this. So therefore, I'm going to live Karaism the way I want to live it. That's not what we're saying. The bottom line is, it must be based explicitly on Tanakh. It cannot go off the page, and it has to be verified by Tanakh, the Hebrew Scriptures. So you must understand that this is not to be misconceptualized as that everybody picks up a Tanakh and just invents rules and regulations. No, this is not what it means. It must be based on Scripture, and it must be proven by Scripture, or someone will literally tell the person, you're full of it. You're making up stuff. You have to search the Scriptures, because you're responsible for your Torah observance. You are responsible with the Creator. It is you alone who will be in judgment with the Creator on the day of judgment. There's not going to be a teacher with you. There's not going to be a rabbi with you. There's not going to be anyone with you. So therefore, it does make sense that you are responsible for study, interpretation. So I want to make that very clear. It does not mean that you could just go crazy inventing theology. That's not what it means. But you have to study for yourself. The authority is the Scriptures. So therefore, every Israelite, true Israelite, has always known. For example, in Devarim, Deuteronomy, we read that the Torah says that in the ancient world, the Torah was read every 7 years, read into the ears of every man, woman, child, and stranger in the land, so that they may hear and they may learn to fear and keep all the words of the Torah by listening, understanding, by hearing the words of Elohim. It is His authority through His written word. That being said, let's continue here. This principle that I speak about study carefully the Scriptures, was expressed best in the Karaite motto, search the Scriptures well and do not rely on anyone's opinion. It's the Scripture alone, the words of Elohim, that is the authority. Karaites do not reject all interpretation, okay? And do not take the Bible literally every time, since everything requires interpretation. Instead, Karaites hold every interpretation up to the same objective scrutiny regardless of its source. It must be based on the written words of Elohim. It cannot go off the page like I mentioned before. So it's very, very important. The Karaite motto does not say to reject the opinion of the learned or those who know. That's not what it's saying. It simply warns us against relying solely on an opinion of someone else without studying for yourself and searching the Scripture for God's opinion on the matter. Don't base your beliefs on someone's opinion or my opinion or anyone's opinion. You must search the Scriptures to make sure what I'm telling you is true or what someone else is telling you is true. That's what it means to be a Karaim, a Karaite. Search the Scriptures well. Yes, we do have interpretations, but we must look in Tanakh nonetheless and say, you know what, this is not correct. And this is why. Give the Scripture, give the verse. That's what we do. So we must verify all things through the Hebrew Scriptures. Not by opinions, not by authority, not by communism within Judaism, not being a Vatican. The Scripture alone. The Scripture alone. I'm going to give you a little bit of briefing of the history of Karaism. Karaism has been around in all truth since God gave His laws to the Jewish people, to the Israelites. At first, before the term Karaite was brought about, people who kept to the Hebrew Scriptures alone were always thought of as Zadok, or righteous, the righteous ones. So this is a term that was even applied to the Sadducees. Now, there was a group called the Sadducees, which opposed the Pharisaical laws of the Pharisees. The Pharisees are the originators of the oral law, the Talmudic teachings, what ended up being the Mishnah, and other things. So Karaism in reality is the true Judaism, the true Israelite way, Zadok, the righteous. And it was only in the 9th century CE when the term Karaites came into being as a name put out there by us, by Karaites, to distinguish, we are going to call ourselves Karaim, which is basically like saying today, Tanachites. We stand by the Hebrew Scriptures alone, and we reject all additions. We are Karaim, scripturalists, Tanachites. That's what it basically means in plain English. So that's why it came about. But before that, it was just Zadok, righteous. Period.